I'm talking today about the International Image Interoperability Framework, or as it's abbreviated, IIIF. IIIF is an international standard for viewing and sharing quality images of cultural heritage. It's been in development over the last decade or so, and it's extremely relevant to anyone who engages with digitized visual media as part of their research. But it's entirely possible that you've never heard of it before. The community that's responsible for the development of IIIF tends to be highly technical, and the terminology that surrounds it is specialist, and it's rather inaccessible to a general audience outside of that technical community. So my aim today is to provide a jargon-free introduction to the IIIF framework and describe how it allows illustrations from cultural organizations all around the world to be freely accessed for a range of research and pedagogical implementations. If you use digital representations of books, archives, or artworks in your research, IIIF has the potential to transform the way that you work. It's currently adopted by around 100 major cultural heritage organizations around the world, and some of which may hold collections that you already use. Here in the UK, that includes 3 national libraries, the National Gallery, and most of the Russell Group. In the USA, most of the Ivy League, and many major libraries in Europe too, and elsewhere. When you see the IIIF logo on digital platforms and library catalogues, you'll know that the repository supports the framework. IIIF breaks down cultural heritage silos by allowing illustrations from any library, archive, gallery, or museum that uses the framework to be examined in minute detail using a powerful zoom capability. Images can be freely annotated, enhanced, and manipulated. They can be compared and reunited. They can be viewed in context with their metadata. They can be shared responsibly, and they can be endlessly repurposed for any area of research or teaching. So IIIF isn't a platform, it isn't software. It's a standard that defines a consistent and interoperable method of viewing and sharing digital images, regardless of the location of the original physically. It allows researchers to actively engage with images, to zoom into minute detail, to pan around them, and to add supplementary annotations and enhancements. It allows researchers to compare images from different institutions side by side digitally and to reunite physically disparate collections alongside their contextual metadata. And it allows the sharing and repurposing of cultural heritage responsibly using consistent and stable image URLs. So a more technical explanation of IIIF involves talk of servers and APIs, but you really don't need to know about those things. A simple analogy for the underlying principle of IIIF is that of a mosaic. Every IIIF image is broken down into hundreds of smaller digital images called tiles. And every tile has a unique URL that defines its location in relation to the others. And this is what powers one of IIIF's most popular features, its deep zoom. A tiled digital image can be zoomed into at astonishing levels of detail, quickly and responsibly, even if the image is very, very large. And this is because when the full image is loaded, it doesn't show you every pixel. It just shows you enough to make the image legible at that zoom level. And if you start to zoom in on a section, more pixels will be loaded, but just for the section that you're looking at. And that reduces the processing power that's needed to view the image. The digitization of The Night Watch by Rembrandt set new records for both the resolution and the total size of the digital image. This painting was photographed in high resolution over 8,000 times. The sampling resolution is such that every digital pixel covers an area of the painting that is smaller than a red blood cell. And given the huge size of the original painting, which you can get an idea of from this clip, This results in a truly enormous digital image. It's over 700 gigapixels or 5.6 terabytes. It is the largest and most detailed photo ever taken of a work of art. And if I load it in my browser, we can see the zoom capability for ourselves. So it's possible for me to keep zooming until I'm down to individual brushstrokes, hairline cracks, and particles of pigment, but you won't see any slowness in the browser. So what you're seeing here is not one digital image, it's a digital composite. It's a mosaic of those 8,000 captured images. But because of IIIF, it loads quickly and it zooms smoothly. And this has huge implications for art historians who might want to understand how Rembrandt painted, and for conservators too, to reveal past repairs and consider the most appropriate future treatments to ensure its future conservation. But there's another major advantage to IIIF in this context. If you have a look at the address bar as I'm moving around this painting and zooming in, can you see the address updating responsively as I move around? So this is because every section, every tile of this painting can be identified using a unique URL. So I can demonstrate this if I copy the address, say at this point, and paste it into a new tab. My previous location has been saved. I'm back to my presentation now. So why else might this be useful? Being able to define and save a specific section of an image using a URL means that we can attach or add additional information to it, enhancing the original. This might mean attaching a text transcript or overlaying an image on top of another one for context or comparison. It might mean adding a narrative commentary to support teaching or learning. Annotation can be as simple as connecting a plain text transcript to images from a book in order to make the words that it contains searchable. In the case of this medical officer's report from the Wellcome collection, without annotation, each word would just be an image of a word. But by connecting a transcript using IIIF, the images of words are connected to the relevant text, and the information that they hold can be accessed using a search function. So the viewer is now able to find a word on the page and highlight it precisely using IIIF coordinates. Annotation may also take the form of overlaying one image on top of another image, which can then be viewed or hidden as needed. For instance, a historian might want to overlay a 19th century map on top of a modern version to visualize spatial change over time, while an art historian might want to overlay a preliminary sketch or an underpainting with the finished result. The Raphael cartoons from the Victorian Albert Museum are a good example of this in practice. These have been digitized using 3 different techniques in order to better understand the painting's history. So selecting the infrared toggle reveals 2 layers to the digital object: the painting's surface and the original charcoal underdrawing that's made visible using infrared photography. If you select the 3rd toggle, surface, you add a 3rd layer, which is the object's 3D surface. And that allows us to see tiny pinpricks in the painting that were created when the designs were transferred to fabric in order to be made into tapestries. Annotations might also take the form of a kind of curatorial commentary that allows us to tell stories with images. This was created by NTR, a Dutch public service broadcaster. It's an ambitious, richly annotated version of The Garden of Earthly Delights by Hieronymus Bosch, and it describes itself as an interactive documentary. This is a really interesting use of digital curatorial annotation beyond the cultural heritage sector. There are free tools as well that allow you to make your own annotated versions of AAAF images, and I'm going to take a look at those later. One advantage of AAAF for working with images is the ease with which they can be manipulated by the viewer within the browser without altering the original file. This is a painting that I've opened in a AAAF viewer called Mirador. This is a web-based viewer, so you don't need to download anything or sign in. You just paste in the link to your AAAF image. And once it's there, the viewer can zoom, rotate, flip, you can switch the polarity, you can adjust brightness, contrast, saturation, all on the fly without actually editing the file itself. And altering those settings has various useful applications for bringing out details that might be really hard to see in the original. So it's particularly valuable when trying to read very faint handwriting on a manuscript or decipher information that's been crossed out to reveal maybe some underwriting, which is representing a significant enhancement of the original document. AAAF is designed with interoperability in mind, so the images of any institution using the framework will work in exactly the same way as those of another. And that means they can be pulled into third-party tools, web-based viewers, for instance, like Mirador, to be compared and manipulated. Or with a little technical skill, code from both can be combined to create an entirely new digital object that reconstructs cultural heritage that, for whatever reason in the past, has become physically located in different repositories. This demonstration shows the virtual reconstruction of a damaged manuscript from Châteauroux in France, dating from around 1460. The manuscript's 14 illustrations were cut out at some point in the past and eventually ended up at the Bibliothèque Nationale in the 19th century. The digitization of the miniatures by one organization and the full manuscript by the other allows the virtual reconstruction of the manuscript in its original state because both of them use AAAF. It also uses the image manipulation capability of AAAF to allow users to toggle those layers on and off to see the manuscript with and without its illustrations and adjust the opacity too. There might also be times when you want to compare two digital objects from repositories that might be on different sides of the world. So a preliminary sketch with a final artwork or two versions of a manuscript, for instance. And AAAF supports this too. So in this example, the image on the left is a photograph of a painting that was stolen from the Montreal Museum of Fine Art in 1972, while the image on the right is a different version of the painting, which had been featured on the Wikipedia page about the robbery. Comparing the two side by side in Mirador, we can immediately see the difference between the paintings, particularly in the lower right-hand corner. So this led to the Wikipedia article on the robbery being revised to feature the correct image. And this is just one example where the ability to bring together multiple sources in a virtual research environment can provoke new discoveries. And this example leads us into the idea that AAAF can also help us to contextualize historical sources. Contextual metadata is built into the fabric of AAAF. An image will never be without its description. Every AAAF viewer features a panel that contains the metadata that is essential to contextualizing that object, so that even if it's viewed outside its home repository in a third-party tool, such as in a workspace like Mirador, or in an online exhibition, or in another platform in another institution's website, it will always retain a connection to information that describes the image and where it's come from. The UK organisation Archives Hub are working on a project to take this even further. If you're not familiar with Archives Hub, they act as an aggregator for all UK archives catalogues. You can search their database and you can find archives wherever they have ended up in the UK. And the people behind Archives Hub are unsurprisingly passionate about metadata, and they are working on embedding a AAAF image viewer that will live right inside their archives catalogue. And a few other organisations in the UK are working on this too. It's very interesting, and it means that not only would you see the item's description when you're looking at an image, but you would also see its wider archival context. So if it's a letter from X to Y, you can see how many other letters are there from X, over what period, who else are they writing to, are there replies from Y? And those are questions that the archive catalogue can answer, but which are very difficult to ascertain when looking through a bank of hundreds of digitized images. So this development will transform the archive's research experience, working to close the gap between the archive catalogue on the one hand and digital repositories on the other. As well as featuring metadata, all AAAF viewers include information about what you can and what you can't do with the image in terms of licensing. AAAF is designed for the clear and responsible sharing of images, and it's very easy to see at a glance what terms and conditions may apply for reuse. And I've worked in archives for nearly 20 years, and I vividly remember the days of a culture that was fearful of digitization and what it would mean for the specialness of special collections. The idea that images of our unique content would be lost forever on the internet, and that this would impact job security and even the future viability of the archive itself. Now, thankfully, those days are long gone, and the significant benefits that digitization offers has been proven over and over. And AAAF now really seals the deal, because as we've seen, these images are never lost. Their metadata anchors them to their home repository, to their license, and this allows organizations to have confidence to adopt cultural change, to become more open in a more managed and responsible way. So you can see here clearly our license, our logo, and even collection path. So if you click on that, you are pulled into our digital repository where you can find all the other works that have been created by this artist. This allows us to liberate our images with a confidence that a connection to our repository will always be in place. Downloading and sharing and embedding options are built into every AAAF viewer, and everything is very clear and well explained. So this helps conversations with donors who maybe have the same concerns about reuse and the loss of control of their images. So the creator of this work, Shirley Jones, is still alive, and so this image is very much in copyright. But after seeing the functionality and the responsible approach to attribution that is offered by AAAF, she was willing for us to release images of her work on a Creative Commons license. Finally, because we can contextualize and share AAAF content with ease, we can also repurpose it. We can use AAAF images anywhere else on the web, including our own web-based resources and exhibitions, and we can also annotate them. So a number of tools exist to help achieve this, one of which is Stories, with 3 eyes, of course. And Stories is really the best place to get started with image annotation. You can use it with AAAF images, but they're not essential. With Stories, you can just use a large JPEG file instead. And Stories will make it AAAF compliant for you. The only catch to it is that you can only upload a single image for annotation. Stories supports close reading of a single image for exhibition purposes, for teaching, or maybe as a learning exercise. So this is an example that features George Cruikshank's etching State Miners. It offers a free and a simple interface that allows you to upload an image, to zoom into details, and tag any area of interest with text. And the final presentation that you create will then move through the annotated areas in order. You can embed the results in any web page for reuse in an educational resource or to support an exhibition. And while you can only annotate one image at a time, you can, of course, make multiple projects, and you can do that all for free. If you want to create more advanced presentations featuring multiple pages from multiple sources, and remember those can come from any institution that supports AAAF, it doesn't have to be your own institution, you have Exhibit. So this was developed during the COVID-19 pandemic to assist library and academic staff who were tasked with delivering remote teaching with rare books and archives. And moving on from the pandemic, it continues to be invaluable as a free digital tool for creating professional interactive presentations for audience engagement and education. So unlike stories, Exhibit does not support non-AAAF images, but it does support the annotation of multiple views of books and manuscripts and objects. They can be 2D or 3D, and they of course can be from any institution in the world that uses AAAF to deliver its digital collections. So Exhibit has much greater functionality than stories. You can customize the narrative presentations into a number of different formats. So you can see the options at the top there. You've got Kiosk, which plays pre-timed images on a loop. This is the sort of thing that might be in an exhibition space. It doesn't require any user interaction. You've got Scroll that moves seamlessly through images from top to bottom using the mouse wheel, so a bit like a website. And then Slides that moves left to right as a slideshow triggered by a mouse click or the arrow keys. So that's a bit more like a PowerPoint. And then you've got Quiz. So you can actually make an interactive object that creates multiple choice questions. Exhibit is really simple and easy to use. It offers a high degree of customization. Users can either create presentations from scratch, or you can modify a basic template, which could be something that could be set as a student assessment maybe. The presentations can be public or password protected, which again makes them suitable for submission by students as a formal assessment. And as with stories, presentations that are created in Exhibit that repurpose AAAF content can be further repurposed by embedding those objects in your own web-based resources. So this is an example of a very simple website that I made to host a student's project on the significance of historic maps. And this site features a mix of our own AAAF content from Cardiff University and also maps from repositories in the United States that use AAAF. Thirdly, it also features presentations that the student made using Exhibit. So here's one here. So really the beauty of this approach is that it doesn't matter how simple your base website is. This site is hosted for free on GitHub Pages. It's made of nothing more than HTML and CSS, but it can be made to look very professional by embedding these third-party objects in your site. So I hope this has been a useful introduction to the world of AAAF. It's quite a lot to cover, but I'm very happy to take questions during this session, see if I can help with anything, or for you to contact me directly if you have more questions or would like more information. There's some links up there on the slide if you wanted to just take a photo of the slide and maybe follow those up in your own time. And again, yeah, I'm really available to answer any questions that I can if you have anything you'd like to follow up on. So many thanks for listening.